Enjoy. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Story number 1. Goodbye, My Marine. Written by Phil at the game. The ship gently rocked as the captain ejected the bodies of the deceased crew. Zuza sadly turned to her remaining crew. We will not forget their sacrifice. We wouldn't be here if not for their actions. Remember them and keep them in your souls. Life is precious and not something to waste. I know now that not everyone believes that. We must do our best to move forward and show everyone why life is precious. All right, we've taken enough time to mourn. Now we must go back to work. Dismissed. Captain Zuza made her way down to the medbay to check up on the crew still too injured to take part in the ceremony. As she entered the medbay, her guts dropped as the medic looked up with her sad, big eyes. Is he... She couldn't bring herself to finish the question. Not yet, but I'm afraid he doesn't have long. You should go to him and say your goodbyes. Every meter of her body ached as she walked down the row of medical beds. The last bed on the right had a curtain around it. Gently, Zuza pushed through the curtain. Her breath hitched as she saw his body. It was so much paler than before, having gone from a natural tan color to this. His eyes were closed, as if in sleep, and Zuza turned back, afraid to wake him. Don't go, Captain. I'm just resting my eyes. Turning back, Zuza looked down at the man she had come to respect. Jack Wildman, a retired human marine, had only joined the crew 2 trips ago, but it hadn't taken him long to etch out a place for himself. With his jovial nature and hearty disposition, he had proven to be an excellent crew being. Quickly rising to Chief of Watch, but Zuza had noticed from time to time Jack seemed deeply saddened. She had inquired about it, but Jack usually brushed it off. Then 1 week ago, hell found them. Pirates attacked Zuza's ship. All of the crew managed together in the emergency room, but the ship informed them that the pirates had stolen all the cargo, but had left a small party to set off a bomb. Life Science told the ship that all of the remaining pirates had different terminal illness. Everyone was panicking, but Jack had calmed everyone down. I know it's a long shot, but we need to go and stop that bomb. I think I can defuse most bombs, but we have to get there first. Anyone willing to follow me needs to get out of here right now. With that, he opened the emergency door and charged out into the ship. 6 other crew beings followed him out. Zuza hated herself for not going too. She and the rest of the crew watched on the monitors. The bomb was in the engineering bay. Jack and 3 other crew beings entered through the main hatch. The 3 other crew beings entered through the secondary hatch. Those 3 died in a hail of plasma from the pirates, giving Jack and the final 3 the chance to cross the room and engage the pirates. Jack took a plasma round to the leg, but managed to kill the shooter. The plasma rifle broke immediately. Crappy design. Jack took the pirate's knife and turned it on his fellow pirates. The other 3 crew beings with Jack didn't last long in the brawl, but their deaths allowed Jack to finish off all but 2. The last 2 engaged Jack in a horrific and bloody final showdown, but they couldn't match the retired Marine. Stabbed 8 times in the chest, Jack hauled himself to the bomb. As quickly as he could, he deactivated the bomb. Once he was sure that it was deactivated, he slumped on the floor. Zuza now sat next to the dying man, holding his tattooed hand. I wish that I could do more. I wish I had the courage to have helped you earlier, she said quietly. And as being chief of the watch, I would have been duty-bound to stop you. Captain, I know how you feel. I too had to send people to die once. It's the duty of the commander to send people to do a job. Sometimes that job gets people killed. It's part of the job. It won't get any easier. And if it does, then it's time to quit. You just got to do the best job you can." Jack weakly squeezed Zuza's hand. "I hope you'll have a good life after this. I hope you keep on being a good leader. Retire one day, have a family, and remember all the people you served with. Now I get to be reunited with my brothers and sisters and go on one last march. Sarge, do you hear me? Get the troops together. I'm coming. I'm gonna march to feed off you all." Gently, Zuza laid Jack's hands on his chest. Tears dropped onto his hands as she stood over her crewman. "Thank you, Jack. Thank you from the bottom of my soul. We'll miss you. I will miss you. Goodbye, my Marine. Semper Fi, always faithful." End of story. Story number 2, A Deathworlder's Nightmare, written by old T5970. That's right, I once witnessed a Deathworlder who was afraid. And not just any Deathworlder, a human. I told my grandchildren while sitting by a river. The little ones looked at me with disbelief. They were about to reach adulthood, indicated by their scales changing color. They had been arguing about if Deathworlders would ever feel fear on a battlefield, given the stories that they'd heard about their great strengths, especially when it came to the humans who were considered the most dangerous to fight because of their higher muscle and bone density due to the gravity and adrenaline that is naturally produced in their bodies. So, I decided to tell them a story. I was a young Xenok who wanted to see the galaxy, and the easiest way to do so was to join the merchant's crew. I was assigned to a loading and repair units on the ship. It wasn't hard work. The cranes and machines did most of the work, and I got to see distant planets. I'd been working on the ship for about 2 cycles when the human joined the crew. When we first got news that a Deathworlder was joining the crew, we were all nervous, but we didn't have a choice but to accept it. His name was Sean, and he had been assigned to the same unit as me. Sean was an imposing being. Until he arrived, I was the tallest and strongest on the ship, but I was barely 2/3 his height, and could lift 4 times more than me. However, despite his figure, he was one of the nicest beings that I have ever met, and he would oftentimes go out of his way to help others in the unit when they were struggling with heavy objects or with repairs. He once got injured helping someone after he stopped a jagged piece of scrap metal from hitting them. He had cut his hand in the process, but his first instinct was to ask if they were okay before tending to his own injury. However, despite all of this, some things worried us about him, and the main thing was that when we went to our cabins to sleep after the day, we would hear screaming and crying coming from his cabin. This woke many of us up in the middle of our sleep cycles. Finally, one day the captain came into the mess hall and confronted Sean about this and asked if it was some kind of human ritual. Sean's voice turned sorrowful and told the captain that he used to be a soldier and that he suffered from PTSD. Our people have something similar. For us, it's called the Warrior's Curse. After that, we realized that he was having nightmares and panic attacks, but he wouldn't tell us what the nightmare was about, and we didn't ask. About 2 weeks later, we were using one of the ship's cranes to move some cargo to the loading areas as we neared our destination, when we were attacked by pirates. They had fired a missile next to the ship as a warning, but close enough to violently shake the ship. One of the crates that were being moved came loose and was about to fall on me, and I looked up just in time to see it about to hit me with no time to move. Then suddenly, I felt someone pushing me out of the way just as the container hit the floor. I looked to see who had saved my life, and I saw Sean with his legs trapped under the container and screaming in pain and asking for help. By the time we got the crate off of him and got him to the medical bay, the pirates had been driven off. While he was in medical, I asked him why he saved me when it could have killed him. His response still makes my scales shake to this day. There is nothing I fear more than watching someone die and being able to do nothing to save them. He said that with a sad tone in his voice. I suddenly realized what his nightmares were about. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed.